The best example I can think there is
Didn't one of the airlines just have something happen?
Air
or
Canada
like
just
that?
had a big, and it's almost like I time traveled back because
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Make sure you hit the buttons for me. The review, leave us one of those, comment, follow, subscribe, all of those. Please do that for us. We really appreciate it. Today we have my friend Jonathan Mast on. Jonathan and I are in a mastermind group from the agency world, right? From the marketing side of things. But Jonathan has really kind of popped up as an expert in AI. And I wanted to have him on to talk about AI for roofing. So, Jonathan, give for the listeners, give a little background on yourself.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate having you here. Excited. Yeah, as you mentioned, you and I met in our agency mastermind, and that's kind of my background. I sold my first website back in 1995. I've been involved in digital marketing for a long time, and when AI came onto the scene, I started using it really early, but didn't really see the power of it until late 2022 when ChatGPT released their interface to access their engine. And being a guy who got diagnosed with ADD at 43 years old and who has a very short attention span, I very quickly realized that AI gave me the ability to get a lot more done a lot faster. And that meant, because I'm a big fan of speed and implementation, that meant that I was able to actually get a lot of things done that previously ended up on a very long task list that never actually got taken care of, and ultimately either fell off that task list and didn't get done or maybe got assigned to somebody. So I really started diving into AI, and I realized it wasn't just in the agency world where it adds value. Every business owner, every entrepreneur out there can leverage AI to help save them time, to save their team's time, to increase their profit margins. And one of the really cool things, Jim, you know me well enough, is while we're doing that, we also can provide more value to our clients. And I don't ever remember a time in history that we were able to figure out how we could not only improve our margins as a business, but deliver more value to our clients at the same time. And AI lets us do that. And that's one of the things that really excites me.
And not just in the agency world, across
across the board,
right? Across all businesses. And that it's so, boy, it's coming fast now. I think that we've hit the hockey stick, right? We're definitely on an exponential curve. If you are not using AI in some form or fashion in your roofing business, hopefully this today will at least give you a starting point to a jumping off point. There are so many things that you can use it for in your business. So let's start from that kind of the high level. What is the significance in AI for a roofing business owner?
Well, I think there's a lot of parts of it, but to me, what it really boils down to, probably more than anything else, is at least at the beginning, is helping communicate better. Whether that's writing emails, whether that's creating standard operating procedures for your crews, whether that's just writing a memo to the team. Or, we've all had situations when we have a client email we need to respond to. And if you're anything like me, I should probably take more time to write those, not less. But yet, the day's busy. We're running businesses. We've got lots of things to do. As a roofer, we've got crews out. We've got suppliers we're dealing with. We've got all kinds of things we're trying to deal with. And taking time to really put thought into that email probably isn't what we're doing. And again, that's just one of a gazillion things. But with AI, I can now go in, Jim, and I can say, all right, Jim sent me an email. He's frustrated about this. Here's how I'd like to respond. Here's a couple quick bullet points. Now, based on my tone and style, which I may have shared with it, write me a professional but conversational email back to Jim that'll help. And literally within seconds, I'm going to have an email that probably is 95% ready to send. Then all I need to do is take a quick look, make a couple quick edits, and send it off. And in virtually every case, it's going to write it better than I did. SOPs are another one for me. I know the importance of SOPs. I'm sure, Jim, you know the importance of SOPs, especially in the roofing business. But again, it's time. Do we have time to take the time to update that SOP? Because, well, the crews know what they're supposed to do. So I don't have to update our SOP for the team leader, or I don't have to update our employee manual or our contractor's manual, or whatever the case may be. Now with AI, I can do that because I can literally take my old SOP and give it to him and ask him to update it. Or if you're like me, I'm probably going to grab my phone and I'm going to say, I need to create an SOP to do the following things. I'm literally going to talk to it. And then based upon that, I'm going to say, ask me some questions and then write me a comprehensive SOP for my team. And again, within seconds, it's going to be done. I now just need to edit it. To me, it's a lot like if I asked my assistant to help out with it. If she created that, I'm still going to take a look. I'm still going to proofread it. But that's going to save me so much time over having done it all myself. And AI lets us do that and so much more. We could get into tons and tons of additional things that could benefit. I'm sure we will get into some, but those are just two off the top of my head.
Yeah, but that really reminds me, and here's, as a startup business, or, if you're progressing in your business, I like to look at it in startup scale significance, right? And
yes.
And in the roofing industry, that might be 0 to maybe 2 million in annual revenue, and then 2 to maybe 5 or 8, and then 8 plus, right? And so at each of these phases, it may be you working on it using AI. It could be your team using AI. But one thing that clicked with me, that when you were saying that, was it allows you to work on your business faster.
Yes.
Because that's, we get caught up in the reactionary things of our day to day, but then we miss out on developing those SOPs that we need to put in place. We miss out on writing a good job description and a good job posting, right? That may attract a better type of employee. There's so many things and I love the analogy. It's like you have a new assistant.
Exactly.
You have a new assistant, and they're really smart.
Well, I would say that's the benefit. The job posting, you have an assistant who now is an excellent HR manager and an expert copywriter and understands the person you're trying to hire fairly well, so that they can help you customize that job posting to resonate with them and appeal to them. And it may not be the one that would attract to you, but you're the owner. We need the one that's going to appeal to the guy you want to hire or the gal you want to hire. And that new assistant, that AI, has multiple skills and is an expert in all of them. We just need to tap into those and gain that leverage.
Yeah. What are some other things? Like we had talked before, like, analyzing data is another big thing. Maybe, ways to help you in negotiations, looking at your profits, ways to increase profits, enhancing client experiences. What are some other high level things that are like right there, that are easily, it's available to people now? You can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites is brainstorming. So, most of us as entrepreneurs, we have ideas and we need to kind of vet those ideas and determine if they're good. And the fact that I can use AI to do that and to say, all right, I've got an idea. Here's my thought. Here's what I want to do. Here's my audience. Here's what I think I'm going to solve. Help me. And what I often do is help me prove this is a dumb idea. Because if I can't kill it, then maybe it's actually pretty good. You also mentioned data analysis. Data analysis, to me, is one of the unsung heroes of AI. So imagine you want to take all of your crews and you want to compare their job costing with everybody, and you want to compare that and contrast and figure out which crews have the best efficiency, which crews have the highest amount of waste, which crews are going over budget on time or on materials or whatever. And obviously we can do that. We have all that data, but that takes so much time. Now we can literally upload those as spreadsheets or as PDFs to ChatGPT. And by the way, when I say ChatGPT, it could be ChatGPT, it could be Google Gemini, it could be Claude, it can be any of the major models. It really doesn't matter. And I can ask it to analyze that data and tell me which of the following teams did the best job of staying on budget for hours, which of the following teams had the most waste, which of the teams had the best reviews from the jobs, which had the worst reviews. And then we can even look for trends within that data to find out what type of waste were we incurring, or what type of hours, or was it a particular type of job that we were going over on? Because maybe it's our estimate that's wrong, and maybe it's the crew that's wrong. But now we can analyze that data in minutes instead of poring over it and candidly probably missing things that are there because we simply don't have the time to look. And you can upload those reports and literally now have a conversation with that data. So you could say, tell me about Jim's crew. 2 weeks ago, I saw that they had some glitches in their reviews. Take a look at their data. Were they on time? Did their waste go up? Were there any other variables that you can identify from our reporting that affected their team 2 weeks ago? And AI can literally give us that information.
And it's stuff that you could do yourself. Like, this is the thing, right?
Absolutely.
But my goodness, is it excruciating? At least to me, it is. Like, to me, it is like going through the spreadsheets and like trying to find these trends of what happened here, what happened there. Like, that's excruciating. And that's why, hopefully everyone's using the CRM and and they're using things like they're already using some technology to get you some of the way there. But then even from the data that you get from your reporting, from your CRM or from QuickBooks or from now you could take that data and go a step further with it.
Exactly. And then the neat thing is it doesn't even have to be you. Because the tools exist now, I can go to somebody on my team and go, okay, every week I need you to run all of our costing data through this. And I need you to give me the following dashboard report. And now literally you as the owner can get some of those KPIs delivered to you on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis that allow you to look at your scoreboard or your dashboard and go, okay, do we have any areas that I need to focus on? If everything's in the green and going well, no problem. If one or two things are in the yellow, maybe not. But if I've got some reds that are showing up because, this team had a problem or this product is having an issue, maybe we find out our supplier changed the way they're making, some of the things we're installing, and now we're running into lots of problems. We've got repair issues, we've got callback issues, we've got waste issues. You may not find that out from the seat of the pants until the end of the season. But if you're doing it now, you can identify, we're in June as we're recording this, we can identify it before the end of the month, and we've still got months of business left to make those adjustments and to fix problems before they cause real issues.
Yeah, getting ahead of it. And that's the power of data, right? Like, that's the power of knowing your numbers and data. And this just, like, a lot of this allows you to, just to expand upon that. So, you talked about analyzing jobs. You're talking about now let's look at it from a customer experience standpoint, right? Like, my goodness, I have started using AI. I started using AI a while ago, but just for all kinds of things, like you're saying, for emails, things like that. But now I speak a lot about the customer journey, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I really focus on that, awareness, interest and consideration, purchase and decision, fulfillment of your services, and loyalty. And one of the things that I like to say a lot, and people on the podcast have heard a lot, is if your customers are wondering, you are losing.
Yes.
Right. And so in that, you have to build out a communication rhythm that makes sure that they're not wondering. Man, it takes time to do that, right? To write every email and every text message and every single thing along the way. But even starting in the awareness stage, it's AI is one of the best copywriters in the world right now.
Absolutely.
Right? By far. Like, it's crazy. It is you can ask it to write in different copywriting frameworks if you like one framework versus another, and it's unbelievable. So from a marketing perspective and that awareness perspective, boom, you're getting ideas. You're when you're sitting there thinking, man, we should run a spring special. I wonder what we should do. Go in, and do like a brainstorming session, like you're talking about in
Absolutely.
AI, and start working on that. Now, I talk to people a lot about that communication. So, if you want automated communication, your text messages, your emails, you just go in and say, write me this sequence. And then, of course, like you're saying, you go through and you make your adjustments of the way you want
Mm-hmm.
it to, you want it to be. But my goodness, and then long-term nurture. Like
Yes.
AI can create an email for you every week, every month for, updating people on what's happening in the area, what's going on in the world, like whatever you want it to say, so that you now have a long-term nurture email going out to your past customers, and you're staying top of mind. So many things that it can help with in that customer journey also, right? What about like checklists and like all these different things? There's so many other things. Like there's so many things. What about? I guess
Absolutely.
let's look at it from the customer facing. I kind of went on a rant there, but the customer facing, like how is AI being used well in today, right now, with the technology that's around right now? How is AI being used well in a consumer facing aspect right now?
Well, I think as a roofing company, there's a couple ways that we can better serve our clients with that. One is just by doing an automated scheduling bot that gives the ability, imagine with repairs. So instead of somebody having to wait till you've got somebody available to answer the phone or to pay a service to be able to do that, that you have an AI booking bot that's job is, and you're clear, by the way. One of the things I want to stress, you don't try to deceive your prospect and go, oh, let me talk to your customer service rep and send them AI. Go, you've got two options. We can call you back tomorrow, or here's our AI booking bot and they can book it for you right now. The reason we want to do that is when people know they're talking to AI, they tend to be impressed with it. When they feel like they've been misled, and then all of a sudden they're talking to AI, now they feel like they're being taken advantage of, and you're actually hurting that client relationship. So I'm big on disclosing it, but people don't mind. Let them know, hey, you need a roof repair? Great. I can have my team call you tomorrow, or if you'd like, you can press 2 and our AI booking bot can schedule it for you right now. That can then look at your calendar, look at the ask a couple basic questions, determine which crew's needed, and literally at 2 a.m, that customer can book their job. And now it's off their checklist. They're done. They're not going to call anybody else. It's taken care of. You've secured that job. And better than that, your team doesn't need to track them down the next day when they're at work or when they're there and you're playing phone tag forever. It's done. And maybe, as happened to me just the other day, I literally called at about 8 a.m. You and I were talking before, and it was about getting some internet service established for me. And an hour and a half later, because of their AI booking bot, they told me they were available if I could be at my location in an hour and a half. That would have never happened had I talked to a person. And yet I was thrilled I could be there in 90 minutes. And literally 2 hours later, my service was working as I wanted it to. Do you think I'm happy with that company right now? I'm thrilled with them because the customer service was amazing. And I never had to talk to a person until the guy showed up on site. And that's the beauty of just one of, like you said, tons of things that we can do. It's not just about marketing. A lot of it's about that customer experience and making that customer feel known and trusted and liked so that they feel they're getting that TLC that we always want to make sure we can give them.
I like where you said that is like making sure that you're saying this is AI. Like, yes. Would you like to talk, being transparent that this is AI, not trying to trick people into thinking that they're talking to a person involved in that. And that's, because there's also potential pitfalls, right? Like AI doesn't always work as you want it to yet. It's still in its earlier stages, right? So what are some of the pitfalls right now that people should make sure they're paying attention to?
Well, that's a really good question, Jim. I think there's a couple of them. First is understanding that it was trained on data created by humans, and therefore, like humans, it can and will make mistakes. We can't go, well, just because it's AI, it's got to be perfect. No, it will make mistakes just like your team will, just like you will. And that's why we've got to proofread anything that we do else. So you talked about maybe creating, an email drip campaign. It can do an amazing job of that, but we still need to proofread it. But again, that's a lot faster. understanding that there are some things it probably shouldn't be doing. We don't necessarily want it quoting prices for jobs over, in a booking bot or anything else, because it may get the wrong information. And how is that prospect or that customer going to feel if you quoted them $18,000 for a roof job that you found out was supposed to be $37,000 because the AI messed up? You're now going to have one ticked off customer and probably a negative review. So there are spots that AI probably isn't ready yet. And I want to probably warn everybody listening more than anything else. There are a lot of people telling you AI can do all of those things today. But as a business owner, we need to be pragmatic and say there are certain areas AI does a wonderful job in, and there are others we have to be careful. And if it involves pricing, it involves making commitments on behalf of the company, those are areas. And that's why I'm so adamant about letting people know when they're dealing with an AI bot, just to disclose it. Nobody gets upset about it. But now you get a lot more grace from your customers. If there is some sort of mishap or miscommunication, they're a whole lot more likely to go, oh, I know, I chose to talk to the AI booking bot because it was 2 a.m. That's a whole lot better than not saying that and go, well, but I talked to Mary and Mary told me, and you're going, well, yeah, Mary's actually my AI bot. They don't know that now you've got a problem.
Didn't one of the airlines just have something happen?
Air Canada just had a big...
Wasn't there one of these? Yeah.
Yeah,
do you know
so
they
had a booking bot, and somebody called in. I don't have all the details, but about a bereavement flight, and the AI, based on how it was set, decided, as I understand it, to give them a free flight for the funeral they needed to attend. That's not Air Canada's policy. And unfortunately, Air Canada initially, from the reports I read, again, I was not involved in it, but from what I read, initially said, oops, sorry, that was our AI bot. We're not responsible for what it said. Well, as you can imagine, that just totally, if that happened, totally tarnishes the company's reputation. From what I understand, they did come through and they gave the free flight away, but we don't want to be in that position as an owner where we've got to make those tough choices like that. We have enough tough choices. Had they just dealt with it differently, then it probably would have never been a problem in the first place. And that's why it's so important to think about those next steps and to determine where it's a good fit and where it's not. I use a booking bot to help confirm appointments, like I said. It does a great job. It can allow people to book. It can send out confirmations. Every once in a while, guess what? Because I messed up in the proofreading, there's an error. I just had one the other day. They sent it out, and the client wrote me back and said, I thought we were meeting at 3. It said 4. And I would look back and I'm like, but they knew it was an AI booking bot. I told them, and I said, oops, on me. I messed up. And they're like, oh, no big deal. I know it's AI, but at least it's really cool you sent me the reminder. So they weren't even upset about it. And I was able to fix that. But again, I wasn't quoting them a price for a roof either, which could obviously cause a lot bigger problem.
That's right. And that's, I like that. Again, it makes me think again, like it's like they're another member of your team. It's like it is another member of your team.
Absolutely.
And so, if one of your team members makes a promise, a lot of times you have to honor that promise because they made that promise. So you got to be careful who you hire. You got to be careful what your team says to your customers. You got to be careful what the AI says to your customers. So you got to, there's a lot of things to worry about. But now that we know that there are pitfalls, another thing is like sometimes it makes stuff up, right? Like AI will just
out of thin air
completely make stuff up. So that's why you got to proofread. You have to make sure that you fact check it, things like that when you're doing it. But now, how do we minimize this risk, right? Like how do we minimize the risk of it failing on us, right?
Well, I was just going to say, we're scaring people, and I think that's important. They understand there's some pitfalls. But the good news is most of these pitfalls can be mitigated, kind of like putting guardrails on a road. If you're driving down a road and it's a cliff, it's dangerous. But if you put guardrails in, it minimizes that danger, maybe not even because it stops it from the car from going off, but because the driver is able to see, okay, there's a guardrail there. I better not hit that. And with AI, we can train AI very easily to do certain things, and we can give it rules to follow, such as don't ever provide pricing to a client. And then guess what? It won't make that stuff up, and we can work through that. We can also train it on our company style, our company tone, our company values. even the products and services, our policies, how we operate, and it can help us in those areas, even if it's directly responding, because it can be trained to respond based upon the data we've given it. The key is we can't assume we've got a genie in a magic bottle that just because we know up here what we want to happen, that it somehow read our mind, because it can't read our mind any better than anybody else can. And we've got to give it that data. The great news is if we do give it the data, then it does a very good job of following the rules, because it's a computer. And so it follows the rules that it's been given in the vast majority of cases. I'm sure there's an exception, but very, very rarely at that point. If we give it the rules, you're protecting yourself.
So let's go into that a little bit. Like, I guess the first way of the first probably boundaries that you could put up, the first bumpers you could put up, without going out and training an AI and, more advanced type of things is really just probably around the way that you write your prompts.
Yes.
Would you? Okay. So maybe explain kind of what prompts are, get into prompting for people, because I think that's really the core of interacting with AI. You everyone listening, you may have heard now. I mean, like in the future, there's going to be like a job title called prompt engineer, probably, right? Like that's, if it's not already.
Yes.
And it's someone that is able to use to interact with the AI. They know how to ask the right questions to AI to get the right answers. So I'll let you talk about that. Like, what is prompting? What is prompting, and how do you formulate good prompts to get good answers?
Prompting is really very much just like texting. We text people all the time on our phone, and whether it's our friends, our family, whomever, it's a way of communicating with the AI. And the benefit is, just like with our phones and with texting, we can do that with our fingers on a keyboard, or we can do that with our voice, and we can do recordings, and it will understand that voice and be able to transcribe that for us. So they're very powerful, and that's all really prompting is. I think one of the things that so many people struggle with prompting is they assume that I can ask one question and that AI will give me the perfect answer every time. Mm-hmm. And much like a text message, we should be communicating in a conversation. In other words, it should be some back and forth. If I need it to help me write an SOP, I can't just go, I need an SOP for my crews on how they are to clean up at the end of a job and to make sure they check for nails or whatever. It's not going to do enough. I need to basically describe that, we need to, and I call this a framework. We ask people to follow a framework, because if they follow a prompting framework, they'll never need to buy a list of prompts. They'll never need to worry about saving all their prompts. They literally can follow the framework. And the framework is really easy. We begin by telling AI what role we want it to take. We talked about it being, we could have it a great HR person or a great copywriter or a great any safety inspector. I want you to act as, an expert SOP writer. Okay, that's sufficient enough. It now knows, it's got so much data that kind of brings it in. Then we give it some background. I need to create an SOP for my roofing crews that when they're done with a job, that they check the area surrounding the roof for nails that may have fallen. And here's how I want them to do that. Bullet point 1, 2, and 3. Then the third step is we need to ask the question, which is, please create this comprehensive SOP. So step 1, who it is. Step 2, the background. Step 3, what we want it to do. And step 4 is probably the most important and the one I see missed most often, Jim. And that's, AI has been programmed to make assumptions because we don't want to have it ask us why all the time. So we need to, when we're doing a prompt, give it permission to say, please ask me any clarifying questions you need as the AI in order to give me the best response. So the whole prompt in this case is, you're an expert SOP creator. I need to create an SOP for my crews to double check for nails when they're done with a job. Here's how I want them to do that. Please write the comprehensive SOP. And oh, by the way, please ask me any clarifying questions you need in order to give me the best possible response. that last part's important because guess what? I may not know what data is needed, what information it needs. And when we ask it and give it permission to ask us questions, then we'll look at it and go, well, in order to write that SOP, Jim, I really need to know these 3 things. And then it'll ask us, guess what? It's easy to answer. And now the SOP I get out of it has just exponentially increased in quality because I gave it better data along the way. So I'm a huge fan for that prompt framework. Again, tell AI who it is, give it background, ask your question, and then give it permission to ask you clarifying questions. That all goes into one prompt. And when you do that, the responses you get will amaze you.
Yeah. And that, after I heard you say that in the past, like, like I started playing with it that way, and I was like, oh, I'm getting much better answers.
Yes.
Like, much better answers. And it really makes perfect sense, right? Because you're telling it, I love that. You're telling it how to act, right?
Mm-hmm.
Act as a workman's comp auditor.
Bingo, exactly, yes.
And I want you to review all of our and all of our information here and tell me what kind of response you could say act as an insurance adjuster. You could say you could have it act as a State Farm insurance adjuster. I don't know. You might. I don't know. If you
act as an OSHA inspector. You name it. You can tell it.
Yeah, act as an OSHA inspector and review our standard, our safety policy for like so many cool things. So I want everyone to take that. Like the first thing that you want to be doing is telling AI who it should be acting as. Because otherwise it's just acting as AI, right? Like it's too varied. It doesn't know who it's supposed to be. So it has to, we want to not leave it in for interpretation of the computer, right? We don't want the computer determining how I thought you wanted me to act as as this. And, so it's thinking of it a different way. Give it context.
The best example, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, man. What's a good example?
The best example I can think there is many of us listening on the podcast are married or have been married. And when my wife comes into my office and says, we need to talk, the first thing I think is, I either did something I wasn't supposed to do or I forgot to do something I was supposed to do because there is no context. But when she comes into my office and says, we need to talk about dinner tonight, boom, now I know exactly what we're talking about and I can focus in and be productive. And it's really the same type of thing with AI. If, like you said, if we don't give it any context, maybe it wants to take the wrong role and it wants to talk about how I forgot to buy a card yesterday for her birthday when all she really wanted to do was talk about where she wanted to go for dinner because of her birthday. And giving it that role is so important. Yeah,
that's really important. And then giving it context, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you want to, review our standard operating procedure for roof repairs and give me suggestions for improvement. Like being very specific in the context, and then asking for and telling it what type of response do you want? Do you want to even to the point of like, do you want a full detailed description, or you just want some bullet points? Do you want a checklist to be created from it? I've been asking it recently with Chat 4.0. I've been having it create spreadsheets, Google Docs for me.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I'll say, hey, create a table with this data, or I'll take a couple of spreadsheets and then combine the data and say, I want it, sliced and diced like this. And these are what I want the column headers to be. And give me a new Google Doc for that. And boom, there it is. Like there's the new Google Doc for it. And so it's pretty cool. All of the things that you could do. That's kind of some of the, I guess maybe let's go to the, there's a lot of different tools, right? Like, so kind of circling back more high level again, we got into the prompting and into the, more of how to, but like there, Chat 4.0 was a big change. There's Gemini, there's Claude, there's image generating AI tools, there's language-based AI tools. Well, let's walk through the AI tools that are out there
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time. Which ones you like for what?
Okay.
And just in your personal opinion, right? Like which ones you like for what, and maybe some things that like I've seen this advancement in this one, or something like that. If you've seen anything like that, because like I said, with 4.0 with ChatGPT 4.0, man, you could drop a website link in there and it'll go read
Absolutely.
that web page, and it's so cool. Lots of cool stuff. So let's start off with what are the kind of the top AI platforms out there that you use, and for what, and which ones have you found the more benefit of in different things?
Well, first, I'm going to cover the basics, and I encourage any company out there, regardless of your industry, don't get caught up that you need to buy the latest and greatest bright, shiny AI tool that came out, because almost all the AI tools are going to be built on the models I'm going to tell you about right now. Not saying none of them are valuable, but wait to buy the bright, shiny objects until after you've figured out how to prompt, and if you really need them, because most of the tools out there, like I said, are just lipstick on top of a different user interface on top of the tools that exist. So the main tool is called ChatGPT. Most of us have probably heard of that. It is available for free or paid. The paid subscription is $20 a month. And I highly recommend as a business that you pay that. You'll get so much value out of it. The biggest value you get is increased usage. And they tell you, you get a taste of it. And if you want more, you got to pay $20 a month. It's worth it. The nice thing about ChatGPT is it has probably the broadest array of features and the most things you can learn with it. So it's a great place to start, and it's where I recommend everybody begin their AI journey at. Then there's Google's solution called Gemini, which is also pretty good. I like it, but not as well as ChatGPT, but there's nothing wrong with it. If you've already got a Google G Suite account or something like that, or their central, whatever they call their product now, you probably are getting that for free, and it's a good product. The third is one that we're less familiar with. It's called Claude. It's by a company called Anthropic. It has some major investors from some companies you may be familiar with, like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and places like that are actually investing in that. It's very, very good. All three of those models are, for the most part, very similar. There are some subtle differences, but they're very, very similar. Again, if you're just starting off, ChatGPT is where I recommend you start. On the image side of the world, ChatGPT includes a product called DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E, and it's an image generator. Pretty good job. Not going to get photorealistic, but it's great for infographics and that type of thing. Then there's Midjourney, which is my personal favorite. It is, again, a paid program, but you can get truly photorealistic images. If you need a photo or maybe 5 photos for your new Google ad campaign of different roofers on different types of roofs in different climates, it can do that for you and make it look totally photorealistic. And then there's a number of other models out there that we could talk about, but those are the major ones. And then there's one last tool that I talk about, and again, all of these except for Midjourney you can begin using for free. But the last tool is called perplexity.ai. And what Perplexity is an AI-based search engine. And it's an amazing thing. We've all went to Google and got 10 sites to go look at. And then we had to click on this site and then click on that site and then click on the next site. And that's what we've become used to. Perplexity does that same thing, but it actually analyzes those 10 sites and actually gives us an answer to our question in addition to giving that. Google's beginning to do that with their new search generative experience as well, but Perplexity just does a beautiful job of doing that. So if I need to figure out, for example, a lasagna recipe to cook for dinner tonight, instead of getting 10 websites to go visit, it's going to give me the recipe it thinks is best, and it's going to give me videos and websites to go visit if I want more information. So to start off with, though, keep it simple. Start with ChatGPT. And like I said, don't get caught into, there are thousands and thousands of tools that are coming out. Most of those are just repackaged versions of ChatGPT that cost more money.
Yeah, I've found, in my experience, I haven't played much with Gemini, but before Chat 4.0, when it was Chat 4, I found that Claude did better math than Chat.
Yes.
Like when I would have it analyze a spreadsheet and I would have it come up with some math, like come up with formulas or like more advanced math in it and have it analyze some numbers. Claude seemed to come up with better math. But here's what you can do too, and just put the same prompt into a couple of them.
Absolutely.
Right? Put the same prompt into a couple of different ones, and see what you get out of the other side, and see which one works better, and just play with it and see which one. And they're continuously making advancements in the technology behind it. So one time, this might be better, and then the next week this might be better, right?
Literally.
So I really highly suggest, for the time it will take you to go from, I have them bookmarked, right? Now I have them bookmarked: Chat, Gemini, Claude, right? And
Yep.
I open up 3 tabs, drop the prompt in all 3, hit go. Now I get 3 answers, right? So now I have 3 assistants with different opinions that maybe,
Absolutely. One of the things I love to use Claude to proofread things that I've written in ChatGPT. It's a different engine, yep. So it's going to have a slightly different perspective. And I just tell it to act as an editor and proofread this email and tell me, is it right? Another thing it's great at, and I'll just throw this as a quick tidbit. If you're like me and you use spreadsheets and you want to do some custom formula and you can't remember how to do that, because I can never remember all. You can go to any of the AI tools and just go in Microsoft Excel or in Google Sheets. How do I create a formula, or what formula to do is to do this? And it will literally give you that formula. You can paste it into your spreadsheet.
Step-by-step instructions, the formulas, the whole thing. It's so that's really been a helpful thing for me. Another thing that I've used it for in the last week was creating zaps.
Yes.
So Zapier is a software that connects softwares together. And so I had a kind of a more complex zap that I was creating. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do here? And I said, act as a Zapier expert. You are a Zapier expert, right? Like, you're a Zapier expert. You are consulting Jim Aline on how to set up a zap, right? and I want the zap to be from an email that I'm getting in my Gmail, Google Workspace account, to then be parsed into this and then entered into this in this format. And I want it in a round robin fashion to alert our salespeople when it comes in. And it was like, bloop, and I just went through and followed the instructions step by step, and I did it, and boom, I had a fully functioning zap that would have taken me some hours to complete. But the instructions were right there. So that's another great call out.
Great idea.
Is just going and asking it, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Like, you're an expert at this. Can you teach me how to do that? Maybe you're not an expert at reading a P&L, right?
Great example.
Have it teach you what to look for in that P&L and why it's saying that this is important. I mean, it's very, very powerful in the way that it can do that. One of the things that I want to kind of circle back to, though, in kind of back into the prompting, is I want to give a little bit add on to the conversation of being conversational. Instead of just asking for an answer, like one question, one answer. What are some examples that you've had, or prompts that you've done, or in that led to, because you're telling chat or the Gemini or whatever to ask you follow-up questions, like how are some of those interactions gone, and what are I would assume that you just get much better answers at the end when you're having that conversation.
You do. And, it's a lot like if we're planning lunch, Jim. If you and I say, hey, let's go have lunch today, I can't just say, let's have lunch today and trust that you're going to know when we're going, where we're going. You and I aren't even in the same cities, but, we don't know that. We need to go back and forth. And you need to say, I love sushi, or I want Mexican. And I go, okay, that's great. And we need to talk about times. And sometimes you're going to go, tell you what, let's go have sushi over here. And then I'm going to go, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you I had sushi last night. I don't want that. So we're going to go back and forth. And with ChatGPT, or any of the models, it's very similar. You're going to ask it a question. Sometimes if you're like me, it's going to give you a good response, and then you're going to go, I forgot to tell it something that was relevant. I don't need to start over. I did this morning with a client to an email to a client. I forgot to include an aspect of it. It wrote a great email, and I'm like, I forgot. I also want to say this. All I had to do was tell it, and then it updated that email accordingly. I've done it when I'm doing the brainstorming in particular, where it's asking questions and it's giving me things. And then I'll go, what if? So what if instead of targeting residential homeowners with, certain value homes, I targeted property managers? How would this change what I was trying to do? And all of a sudden, it'll update its strategy. And then I can even go so far as to say, help me identify a unique email campaign if I'm doing that for each group. And it will then branch and do that for me. So it's like just talking to a coworker. If we're collaborating on a project, I'm not likely to walk up and go, Jim, I need you to write this SOP for me. Bye. And then when you go, I have questions. Nope, never mind. I'm not answering anything for you. You're going to collaborate. You're probably going to stand at their desk for a minute. You're going to ask, are there any other questions I can answer for you? And then you're going to tell them, if you run into anything, come see me. I'll help you out. You're doing all of that with AI by just continuing to go back and forth. The neat thing, though, is that if you're doing this in chats, which is how we operate when we're doing that, if I get distracted for 2 weeks, I can then go back to a chat that I did 2 weeks ago, and I can pick off right where I left off. And it's almost like I time traveled back, because AI doesn't realize I've been gone for 2 weeks. It picks up exactly where we left off last time. And that's one of the really cool things, especially for a guy with ADD like me who goes, bright, shiny object. And then it's a week later before I'm back to something.
Well, we're visionaries, Jonathan. We're visionaries,
yes.
Not
especially if it's bright and shiny. Yes.
That's right. So I want to go into now I want to change a little bit to, how do you make this more customized to you, or make it sound like you, make it more personal to you? How do we now take that, because we can say, hey, chat, you're an expert copywriter, write me this and give me this answer, and ask me questions if you ask me any questions that you have to write a good answer. But how do we train it to be more in our voice?
Great question. A couple simple steps. It's going to take just a few minutes. First, make sure you have a personality test that you've done, either a DISC or a Kirby, a Colby, a Myers-Briggs, some sort of personality test. And there's all kinds of free ones you can take. And start by going, I want to develop a tone and style command that I can give to you so that you can write more like me. To begin with, I'm an ENFJ on Myers-Briggs. Then ask it, please interview me to ask me what you need to know in order to create a tone and style command that I can use in the future. And then ChatGPT will literally ask you questions. And when it's done, you say, now turn this into, and I say, I'm using the word command as opposed to prompt, because this will become part of a prompt that you add anywhere in the prompt. It doesn't matter. That basically you're going to say, write me this email marketing campaign, or write me this SOP, or write this memo. And then you're going to add into it, my style is, and it'll literally give you that little bit. You put it in your clipboard, and then you paste that in. And then every time you paste that in, it will use that information, all of that stuff that it interviewed about you, it'll use that to reflect your tone and style. So for example, on a Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFJ, and if I say that, it now has reams and reams of information about what that personality type is, how they communicate, whether all kinds of things, and it will adjust the writing it does to reflect that tone and style, and it'll sound a lot more like me.
That's a really cool tip, because it can understand personality types. Would you be able to do? I'm starting to just to play with it a little bit. Could I put in maybe ask the same thing about to have like a brand voice for my
100%.
company, right? And say, here are our core values, and what would you need to know about our company, beyond that? And then now you have maybe now you have like now you could say that this is our brand voice and this is how we want our emails written. This is how we want our social media. You could have a write social media posts in your brand voice or things like that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and it can even analyze your website. If your website, or you've gotten particular email, maybe a newsletter that you've written or a blog post you've written that really reflects it, share that data with ChatGPT or any of the models and have it analyze it for your tone and style. It'll then spit back to you and go, I think this is what I'm seeing. And you'll go, yeah, that's me. You can give it your mission statement. You can give it your values. You can give it your core of your brand, and it will then create a simple command that you can use anytime you want to reflect that tone and style. And again, now it sounds like your company.
So, Jonathan, what do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that will help them find success in using AI for their roofing businesses?
I think the biggest thing, Jim, is the fact that if you don't choose to leverage AI, and it is a tool, it's like getting a power hammer. You probably remember days when we installed shingles with we had hammers and we hit them hard, and then we got heavier hammers and all that did it in one hit instead of multiple hits. Then we got power nailers. AI is a tool just like that, and it's going to amplify your skill and experience. But if you ignore it, it'd be like going ahead and trying to install a roof the same way you did 50 years ago and trying to be competitive with the roofer that's now using all the new tools and things that are available. That new roofer is going to be more efficient. They're going to be more profitable. They're going to provide better service than what you're going to do if you did it the same way you did 50 years ago. The time we're in a great time to learn how to start leveraging it in your business and empower your teams as well. Encourage your teams to learn how to use AI and what they're doing, because it'll make them more efficient as well. And they're going to identify opportunities to leverage AI that you as the business owner may not even be thinking about, because they're going to be in the midst of something and go, hey, the other day I did this and boy, did that work great. And that will allow your business to succeed and leap ahead of your other competitors, who many of which are sticking their head in the sand like an ostrich and going, it's another trend. We'll get to it later. No, don't get to it later. Embrace it today and leap ahead of your competition.
Awesome, man. I think a great place to start, you have a great Facebook group that just is having this conversation all the time. What is that Facebook group?
If you just go to jonathanmast.com/linktree, LINKTREE, I've got a link to it there. Sorry, it's a really long URL, so it's kind of hard to do. But if you just go to jonathanmast.com/linktree, it's a free group. There's no cost. As of right now, we've got 124,200 entrepreneurs in there. Like you said, we talk about prompting and all that. It's free to anybody. It is private, so you have to apply, but we'll let you in. Don't worry about it. That's just to keep the spammers out. But yeah, come join us and learn. We'd love to have you.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Jonathan. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.